I should just point out anyone who's watching this that I share an account on Zoom with my friends. So if you wonder why my name is Jackie Groundsel at the bottom of this, it's not. I just forgot to change the name. So, so making that point to everyone out there.
I did wonder when it first popped up onto the screen, but
Yeah,
I
I
quite
forgot.
often see people who share accounts.
Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, it happens.
People go, this will be the one that blows up. I mean, I've had ones that blow up before, but it's like, this would be the one that gets everywhere, and everyone goes, why is his name Jackie? It's just like, oh,
Yeah,
God.
yeah.
Hey guys, welcome to LOL starring Chris Smith, the best comedy show on Love to Be Radio. Why is that? It's because it's the only comedy show on Love to Be Radio. How are you all doing? Guys, I have got a very, very, very special guest. He is an actor, director, singer, multi-rounded performer. I've done so many things, but including on stage. He's done short films, long films, indie films, has done a career that most people in this world would think, my God, I wish I had his career. But one thing that I think a lot of you, and I imagine some of you who have previously listened to my show, and also are listening to this now, is that he has a particular voice and a particular role. He is the voice of the interviewer on the critically acclaimed and successful podcast series, The Amelia Project. I have here Mr. Alan Burgon. Welcome, sir.
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me.
No, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here. So, I mean, like I said at the top, I mean, actor, director, performer, singer, your list of achievements is absolutely endless, but let's get the start to this as the way I had to deal with Philip and Oystein, who I had on the show before. Alan, tell me your story.
My story.
How did you? What was the first role? How did you start acting?
Well, to be honest, when I was 2 years old, I kind of learnt the entire musical Grease off by heart. And I would sing the songs and dance the dances for my sister and her friends. So that was kind of my first soiree into performance. But I moved around a lot when I was a kid, and I kind of it kind of left me for a while. And it wasn't really until I was in high school. The only two things I ever got a commendation for in high school. One was for doing, it just said the rock band, because my band at the time played for a couple of the assemblies. And the other one was in English class, and it was for reading Inspector Gould in an Inspector Calls. So the only two commendations I ever got in school were for something performance based.
So it's safe to
And
say you were a born performer, then no matter what.
yeah, it's I mean it's like I say, it's something that I didn't really realize or register as I was growing up. It was only kind of on reflection that I realized it's always kind of been with me. Like I remember being on a school trip to Edencourt Theatre in Inverness, and we went to see a production of The Seagull. And it was the first time that I'd ever really gone to the theatre. And I remember my friends like chatting and joking around, as young boys do, and me just shushing them because I was trying to listen to what was going on stage. And that image is still very vivid in my head. But it's just always kind of been something that I've leaned towards and really enjoyed doing. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, you carried on that by also studying professionally because you studied at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland to become
Hmm.
a professional actor. So
Yeah.
you do that. Then what was the first role that you fully booked where you're like, yes, this is it?
Well, I was really lucky out of drama school because there's a theatre company called the Dundee Rep, which is in Dundee, funnily enough.
Yeah.
Really phenomenal theatre. They produce really wonderful pieces of theatre, and they got a great permanent ensemble and great guest artists that come in. And each year they have a graduate scheme program where they take on two graduates from drama schools around the country. And it just so happened that I fit into their repertoire for that year. And it was one that I really wanted to get. I actually phoned up the Royal Shakespeare Company when I got offered the Dundee rep because I was still, I think anyway, in the running to play Benvolio in a production of Romeo and Juliet.
No
And
way.
yeah, and I remember phoning up the secretary and saying, it's like, so I've just been offered a year's contract at the Dundee Rep, and I really want to do it because that was my gut feeling, right? That's that I knew that I wanted to go to the Dundee Rep. And because I'd had such a great audition with Trevor Nunn for the part, and I just remember this, this young naive actor, like almost fresh out of drama school, phoning up the Royal Shakespeare Company and saying, but please, please ask Trevor to, think of me in the future because I'd really love to work with you guys. And she just responded by saying, "Oh, I'm sure he'll remember you." And my naivety at that time thought, damn, I must have done such a great audition that, he wanted me for the part. On reflecting about it, like just a few years ago, I think what probably was the case was she was just like, yeah, anyone that turns down any potential offer from the Royal Shakespeare Company is going to be remembered. Blacklisted, mate.
Ah,
I-
but
but
sometimes you want that. You want to be like, yeah, I'm the one that said no to you, and it's like, yeah, you said no, so that's it.
Well, I mean, he hasn't called since, so I don't think he did ever remember me. But I had a fantastic time at the Dundee Rep, and I really wouldn't change it for anything because I got to do 5 plays. I was guaranteed 5 plays within a year, and that for me held a lot more value than doing one play and hoping that something else comes after it. Because I was just out of drama school. I still felt like I needed some training, and for me, the Dundee Rep was a great place to get that additional training.
I love that, and like every actor who when they started out, no matter what, you decided you wanted to do Shakespeare.
Yeah,
So
right.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
decide. I mean, because you have done Shakespeare in the past.
yeah.
You've done a few, haven't you? I mean, any particular roles, any particular of the Bard's artwork work that you particularly liked or wish to do?
Um, I mean, there are a couple that I would love to do at some point. I mean, I would love to do Macbeth at some point. I would love to play Iago. It was my audition speech for drama school, and I was actually auditioned at that time it was the RSAMD. They just recently changed to Royal Conservatoire of Scotland. At that time, it was the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama. And one of their ex-students, Liam Brennan, who is a phenomenal actor, I saw him perform Iago I think it was in the Lyceum in Edinburgh. And when I get into the audition room, he's on the panel. So and I know it's him. Like the second I walk in, I see him sitting there, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm about to do Iago in front of the actor who played Iago when I went to see the show. But he was lovely. He's a sweetheart of a man, and he just said to me afterwards, "I really hope you get a chance to play that part one day." So yeah, that's. But I haven't yet. I've done a few Shakespeare's, but they were ones that well, drama school aside, they were ones that the theatre company I co-founded here produced.
Yes, well, we should point out that you are based in Vienna and work there. You've done a lot of
Yes.
amazing work there, which I absolutely love. So, I mean, starting a theatre company, how does that turn about? I imagine that's a difficult process.
Yeah, it was born out of necessity, really, um, because so I met my wife at drama school in Glasgow, and she is Austrian. And we were going to move to London together, but family things brought her back to Austria, and I decided, okay, you know what, let's move to Vienna for a year. You can do a bit of networking, I can absorb a bit of the culture, and it's 15 and a half years later. So the things didn't quite go to plan the way that they were planned, but I just rode
Yeah.
the wave as it took me. And I did find work in a small, it was funded at the time, a small international theatre in Vienna. Um, so I worked there for 2 years, but in 2012 they had their funding taken away from them. And we were doing, funnily enough, an Inspector Calls. I was playing Inspector Ghoul in that part, so the one I got the commendation for in school. And the director at the time, who's, he's like a year or two older than I am. And I was just getting ready, in front of the mirror in the bathroom. And he came in. He's like, "Are you okay?" After the news, the theater's closing. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just kind of going through my head, wondering how we take it over." And he just looked at me and went, "Then we should talk." And we just started having meetings, and we set up this association, so theatre company. That was in June 2012. And the International Theatre always performed a Christmas Carol. That was kind of the big cash cow that brought the audiences in full houses for like a month and a half. So that was our first show. And we were desperately trying to get the company established and find a venue and a rehearsal room and a cast so that we could do a Christmas Carol in less than 6 months. Um, and I was working in a fitness studio at the time, and one of the guys there who was a client to the gym, just chatting away to him, and he said, "Oh, I have a theater for you. Yeah, downstairs in the restaurant that my family owns is a theater." And I just kind of brushed it off at the time. I was like, okay, a theater underneath a cafe, it's probably this tiny shoebox thing.
Yeah.
But we looked and looked and looked. We went and viewed so many venues, and they were either way too expensive or, they just weren't proper theaters. So we went to the last on our list, and then it really wasn't going to work. And we were sat there having a coffee afterwards, and I was like, "But you know what? This guy did say that he maybe had a theater. Should I give him a phone?" And people were like, "Yeah, why not? What have we got to lose?" So I phoned him up. We were able to go straight round and view the theater. And it was this, it's not massive, but it had 125 seats. It had proper lighting
Oh,
rig and
damn.
things. And it was really, really cheap, actually. Compared to everywhere else that we'd seen, it was really cheap. So we just kind of landed on our feet with that venue, and it all slipped into place. And I remember sitting backstage because I was playing Bob Cratchit in that first production. And I was sitting behind the curtain waiting for it to open, and I could just hear 125 people out there in the audience. And I was just sitting there on my little stool with my notebook and my quill thinking, "I can't believe we actually pulled this off, and this is opening night."
That's
So
in
yeah,
from a that's from a stroke of luck, I take it, that you just happened to know someone who had access to a theatre that you could use.
I mean, I think this is a lot of times how life works. It's the opportunities will present themselves when you're ready for them, and it's up to you to say yes.
Mm.
It's I love that quote. Luck is when opportunity meets preparation,
Mm.
and that's kind of one of the ones I live by. So as serendipity happens, but I think it's always meant to be.
No, I love that. I mean, you've done a lot of productions in the past. I mean, from Take a Bite when
Mm.
you did the Edinburgh Fringe, which I think was one of your first roles, to Peer Gynt, to
Yeah, that was a while ago. Yeah.
I know I did my research, to
Yeah.
your most
Yeah.
recent
Right.
work. To your most recent work, because last year you starred in Mike Bartlett's play COCK, which I can't say on the radio
Yeah.
because that's sort of thing, but it's that, which is
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a big role. How did that one come about?
That was I got a phone call from Flo, who was producing it, and who also plays M in the production, so the boyfriend. Um, and we'd met like once before years ago. He's from a small village outside of Vienna, but he's trained here and lives here. And he got my name through Joanna Godwin Seidel, who runs another English speaking theatre company here in Vienna, because he was looking for English speaking actors. So I went along to the audition, and basically booked the part like from the first audition. I didn't know it, but it's, like we did a couple of. I worked with a couple of the potential women
Mm.
who were going to play W, and then they were like, "Can you come back to work with the other group that we have coming in next week?" And yeah, that's how I got involved, because Stephen Dittmeyer, who directed the play, he is a Meisner teacher, and he actually worked under Sanford Meisner for a couple of years. He's based in New York, but he does a Meisner workshop all over the world, and in a lot of places in Europe. And he brought the play to Flo, saying, I really want to do this play. It's one of my favorite plays, and I think you could play John. And so Flo
Mm.
was like, okay, great. He read through it and he read the play like 2 or 3 times, and he got back to Stephen and he was like, I love the play. I definitely want to do it. I don't understand John at all. It's like, I don't get this guy, but I really understand M. I get him 100%. So that was why they looked for a John. And I mean, John is a really fascinating character, but I get him.
Well, I was going to say because I mean the plot. For anyone who doesn't know, I won't spoil all of it. But it's the plot is very convoluted. Or in a sense, it's a very the plot of it is very difficult to sort of comprehend. As you said, John is a
Yeah,
very
yeah,
interesting character to sort of get behind up and to sort of
yeah.
empathize and sort of deal with. Was that difficult to get into, or was it immediately like you knew John straight away?
Um, it's really interesting because I've not really had the opportunity to perform the same play with like a year and a half gap.
Mm.
And this time when we brought it back, like the first time through, I had my hair really messy and I had my sleeves, the arms of my sleeves rolled down, and I was constantly like, playing with the sleeves. Like my thumbs were just always digging into the sleeves here because that aspect of the character trying to retreat from decision making and retreat from the world, that was kind of how it physicalized in me. This time doing it, it's the same play, it's the same character, but John felt completely different for me this time. I was getting ready for the first dress run, and I was like, no, my hair needs to be back now. And I put my shirt on, and immediately I was like, no, I need to roll these sleeves up. It's like that's not who John is this time. And it's the writing is so phenomenally good. I want to have the opportunity at some point in my life to meet Mike Bartlett, to convey to him how much this play has resonated with me,
Mm.
because the writing is superb. And playing it as an actor, part of what made the production superb, it really was the perfect storm. So much so that it is the best piece of theatre that I've been involved in the 15 and a half years I've been living in Vienna. Um, and a
A
lot
high
of,
regard there.
yeah, really. And that is down to the writing of the play. It's down to the cast that I had around me because we all just bounced off each other like so well. And to Stephen Dittmeyer as a director because he didn't touch our psychology at all. He gave us the space to explore the characters for ourselves. He kept us in check with regards to pacing and punctuation and, a bit of blocking because we performed it in the round. So it was important that, the audience got to see all of us equally.
Mm.
But other than that, he kind of let us develop the characters for ourselves. And what that did was, it's very rare to find a director who does that. And I said this to him while we were doing it last time, because quite often what happens is, without even meaning to, quite often what happens is that a director will try and act vicariously through you on stage. So a lot of the direction will be, this is how I would do it if I was in the part. They don't say that in as many words, but that's the feeling that comes across as an actor. It's like you get a piece of direction, and that's how the director sees the character, which is
Mm.
fine. It can work. It works as well. But when you get to work with a director like Stephen, who allows you the freedom to discover the character for yourself, every single night was different. Every performance.
It's interesting. Also, you talk about how like you've had a year gap in between both
Hmm.
roles. So you in
Yeah.
a sense the character not only changed, it evolved with you. You understood
Hmm.
him a bit more, and down like you said, down to the final tune, you were thinking like, I need to know what he was thinking. Like, did you actually research a lot into the psychology of what this character should feel like?
No, not with this play. I have done in the past. It always kind of depends on the play itself. And I always do try and buy into the concept of the director. And because it wasn't a topic of discussion in the room, the psychology of the characters or the backstory relationships and things of the characters is not something that we discussed during rehearsals. But it is something that I do kind of automatically. Like, even if I'm observing people on the street or if I'm watching a film or something, I'm always trying to understand what makes that character or that person behave that way. What are the given circumstances that lead them to behave that way in that moment? And it's not really something that I'm able to shut down. It happens automatically.
Mm.
Um, so I didn't really like with other parts that I've done where I will like even write down diary entries and things. I didn't really do that with John. I didn't even decide what happens at the end of the play. And I've had after almost every single performance, somebody asked me, "So what do you think happens?" And I never had an answer because I made the decision for myself. I didn't want to know the answer because
Ah,
if I as the actor make that choice, then every night I'm kind of going towards that final point. And at the end of the play, John still doesn't have a clue what's going to happen.
mm.
So I kind of felt like if I, as the actor, made my mind up about that, then that would kind of like be me as a director trying to tell an actor to perform it the way I would do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, well, let's
Yeah.
get into that a bit more. It's just that not you aren't just an actor; you're a director. You have directed people in specific roles.
Yeah.
So, like you said, you had a fantastic director, Stephen, there, who gave you the freedom to
Yeah.
delve into your character and see what you could do. Did you feel that way, or want to feel that way? Now that you were on the other side, that you were a director directing other people, did you try and emulate that, or do you have a directing style?
No, I mean, I'd kind of done a similar thing in the past because by the time I met Stephen, I had already directed and already experimented with different styles. I mean, the thing is, for me, when I direct, I'm very interested in the individual. So what is that actor's process? Because I teach as well. For the past 2 years, I've been teaching, which is very similar to directing, to the way I direct anyway.
Mm.
Um, because I'm not a huge fan of this idea of concept. Especially in the German-speaking world, if you're looking for in Austria, if you're looking for funding, you need to write up a concept of the play. What are you going to do that's different? And why should we give you money for this? Because it needs to be something a bit off the wall or something that
So
has to
they
have a
they
concept.
appreciate they appreciate you being different. They appreciate you don't just write the same thing. What's the spin on it?
Yeah. This is kind of how it works with the funding over here, which I think is a bit of a double-edged sword because I understand that it kind of encourages creativity, but I've also seen a lot of things where I've seen choices made which for me bear no grounding in the play itself. It's
Yeah,
like coming up with a choice just because we have to.
I tell you, yeah. There's a bit of like, does this elevate the play, or did you do this just to be different? Where sometimes the play
Yeah,
itself is perfect the way it is.
exactly.
Yeah.
So for me, when I'm directing, I'm much more interested in I'm genuinely interested in what the writer puts down as to how it should be done, because I feel like as an actor, as a director, we're there to take the material and make it work.
Mm.
It's why I'm also not a huge fan of asking for line changes or can we swap this around. I much rather try and find a way of making it work for me. And if I spend a couple of weeks trying to make something work and it still doesn't, then either ask for other input or ask for a slight, line change or something so that it works for me.
Well, I do want to
Um,
ask about that. Was there a particular play or particular part where it was really difficult to get into, and you were just thinking like, the writing just isn't working. Can I switch it around? Has there ever been a difficult part in that?
um, yeah, there definitely would have been, especially when I was younger. This is not how I always was. I was very um, what's the word? challenging, I guess, for lack of a better word. I was very, very challenging with directors and things when I was in drama school. I know this because I've always kind of thrown myself into the work. I like to do a lot of research and I like to, work on my character, on my part. But what that has done to my disservice in the past is that sometimes I've come into the rehearsal room a little bit too cocky, thinking, well, you know what, I've read the novel that this play is based on, so I understand this reference or that reference, which hasn't gone down too well with certain directors in the past.
Mm.
But it's a learning experience. I was mirrored myself when I started directing. Because another thing I used to do in drama school was that I would immediately challenge a director's opinion. If they asked me to try something a way that I hadn't assimilated for myself yet, that I hadn't, come across in my own workings outside of the rehearsal room, then quite often I would say, nah, you know what? I don't think this character would do that because of this.
Mm.
And when I was in drama school, I was thinking, it's my part. It's very important to me, which it is. As an actor, your part is the most important thing. That's what you should be focusing on.
Mm.
But when you start directing, then you have the whole ensemble that you need to be aware of. You
Mm.
have the wardrobe department, makeup, set design. You need to have this overview of the whole. And what I was met with in one production was an actor who immediately challenged the idea that I offered to him because it didn't compute with his understanding of the play.
Mm.
And what I saw for the very first time in my life was the people who, when I was younger, were all standing behind me, the other cast members. I now saw them behind him, and they all just dropped. Like their shoulders just sank and their heads dropped, and the energy was just stripped out of the rehearsal room. And it took
Oh,
about 20 minutes for that energy to get back to where it was. So
just because this one actor challenged you?
yeah, just because it was a roadblock to the creative process. Um, and this is the thing, and not just because the actor challenged me, but because the actor challenged before they gave it a go. And
Ah,
this is the thing. I like went outside with him afterwards and like thanked him for this personal lesson that he instructed me in because it was me. It's exactly what I used to do. And what I realized after that point was, and this is easier to do in theater than in film, I think, because if you do it in film, it's captured and then, they
it's
use it or
there.
they don't,
Yeah.
you no longer have a say. But in theater rehearsals, at least, if the director asks you to do something, try it and give it 100% of your effort. Because one of three things is going to happen. One, the director is going to see it and realize it doesn't work. And they're just going to say, you know what? Thank you. It didn't work. Go back to doing what you were doing. Um, Secondly, it might really work for you and you surprise yourself, but you would never have reached that conclusion if you don't really give it your all. Or thirdly, you've given the director the respect and the rest of the room the respect of giving it a go. And if it still doesn't work for you, then you can say, look, I tried it. I just don't feel it. It doesn't work for me. You,
Mm.
you start the conversation, but you've offered the respect of giving it a go in the first place. And I'm at the stage now where even with COP, with the COCK play,
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, swearing. I'm not allowed on this.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think I caught it just in time. Um, um, there was one. It's one of the only times that I think Stephen ever gave me, like he didn't want to give me, but it was basically a line reading because he understood something differently from the line to how I understood it. And I really didn't get what he, I understood what he meant, but I really didn't see it that way. But I was like, okay, I'm just going to give it a go. I'm just going to work with it. And it still wasn't working for me. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep trying until the day before premiere and see if I can work it out because it's only one line. And if it still doesn't work before premiere, then I'll say to the guys that, look, I've been trying for the past 2, 3 weeks to get this to work for me. It doesn't. And by the time premiere came along, what I realized was it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It's like because I'd said it so many times that it could be that way, it could be the other way. And you're
Mm.
talking about like one line in a play that it's one piece of the whole. And if it works for everybody else, it works.
Yeah.
And I can't, yeah, I doing it this time, it wasn't even a thing in my head because it was so second nature.
No, I love that because it shows how much you care so much about the roles in particular. Even one line kept you like worrying for 2 weeks, thinking, "How do I say it right so that the
Yeah,
audience
yeah,
understands it more?" Where it's like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
one line, the audience might not even remember. You know.
yeah, 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 absolutely, yeah, yeah. And that's the thing. I think as actors, we do get very hung up on these little details, which I think is absolutely right. I think we as actors should. That's part of our job. But having the freedom to just kind of let go a little bit as well and say, you know what, doesn't matter. It's so long as we ride the wave when it's there and we just let the creativity take us, like carry us along, then it'll all work out.
Yes. You recently just did I think it was a month ago your recent production An Ideal Husband. Am I right there?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Which, is that still going? How often? When did that happen?
No, that happened. That was in April. Yeah, March, April. Yeah, round about that time.
Right.
That was with the company that I co-founded. I left in 2000 at the end of 2018,
Mm,
because I could see a way for it to grow, but in order for it to do that, for me, I would have to have become more of a producer and step back from acting,
mm,
which is not something that I was prepared to do. And the problem I saw at the time was, even if I say I'm going to step back from certain roles, because I've been doing those roles for the past 6 years, ultimately I'm going to be pulled back into them, even if it's just to cover someone else. So it's either clean break or not at all. And I've joined them again for the odd production here and there. An Ideal Husband being the last one. Um, and I really enjoyed doing it, but I seem to have reached a point in my own career where there's so much going on all the time that was the last of those productions that I will get involved with.
yeah. Well, that I will get involved because not you're not just doing theatre and of course podcasts. You're also doing TV and you're currently filming. You recently are doing an indie film and a short right now, aren't you?
I was so this the past month alone was pretty crazy. Um,
I mean,
so
how do you manage this schedule of work?
with an unbelievably supportive wife and son, um, shared Google calendars, and and an energy that I have inherited from my mum. This kind of like get up and go attitude and just, get it done. Don't put off today. Yeah, don't put off until tomorrow what you can get done today.
Well done.
And just saying yes. Yeah, like if the opportunity arises. But yeah, this past month has been particularly tricky because I do an ABBA show as well. Since January, I play Björn in an ABBA tribute group, and we tour all around Austria, sometimes in Germany and the surrounding countries. So I started the month with 4 shows in a row of ABBA. Then I had 2 days at home, and then I went to Madrid for 9 days to shoot a commercial. Then I was home for 3 days, and I had to prepare for a true story night in one of the theaters here, which is just like a one-off performance, where I had to do 2 10-minute true stories. The morning after that, I traveled to Salzburg to play Von Trapp in the Schloss Leopoldskron, where they filmed The Sound of Music as part of a fundraising event.
Amazing.
Then I came home. Yeah, yeah. Then I came home again for another couple of days and went off on tour for another couple of ABBA performances. and I just got back yesterday morning, and so yeah, I've got a few days where it's kind of business as usual, but then on Friday night, the guy who plays Benny, a good friend of mine in the ABBA show, we've done it two times before, but we go to an art gallery, and the
Mm.
new exhibition that's there, he brings all of his instruments. I walk around and either speak or sing, whatever comes to mind when I'm looking at the pieces of art.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
all improvised. Yeah, it's all improvised, and it's interesting. It's
Is
interesting.
that more harrowing improv, or are you comfortable with it?
I honestly don't know if you'd asked me this a few years ago, I would have probably it would have been terrifying. But I've said yes to so many things over the years that it's kind of like, okay, so we're doing this now. Even with ABBA, I had 3 weeks to learn the harmonies and the guitar parts enough so that even if I didn't know them, like even if I hadn't learnt them all, I could turn the guitar down and at least look like I knew what I was playing. But I had 3 weeks to do that for 28 songs, including the ones that are in the medleys. And the first performance I had with the band and like the first run through with the band and costume changes was the first performance. And that
Wow,
was
that
on,
it was that down to that sort of line.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it has been many times in my career. But,
I mean,
I think,
with the
yeah.
numerous roles that you're currently doing in the business schedule, is it a sort of like you focus your energy on this and then switch to this, or do you try and keep a level head of like, no, I have to keep the same energy for everything?
No, I will have, obviously I have the projects coming up in the back of my mind, and somewhere in my subconscious I'm preparing for them, but I need to focus 100% of my energies on whatever the next thing is. And as soon as that's done, I basically need to forget about it and just erase and start programming the next one. Like for the True Story nights, I was going through those, because it's basically like combined, it's basically a 20-minute monologue that needs to be prepared to stand up on stage in front of a live audience and, recite. So while I was in Madrid, I was writing those in my downtime, so that I could then learn them as soon as I got back. And then as soon as I was like on my way home, I basically just started going over the Sound of Music lines again and the songs.
That must show you have at least a good memory to remember all the songs and just have the melodies and all the parts in it. So, or is this something you just continuously just try to relearn?
I think it's training, honestly. I do it so often that the more I do it, I mean, I've always been pretty quick at learning lines. I now have to do it differently. I used to be able to just record them into a dictaphone and listen to them while I was going down the street or, doing the dishes, whatever, just so that I was constantly absorbing the material. Maybe additional commitments now means that I don't have the excess brain capacity to just be able to, filter it in when I listen to it. I do need to take the time to sit down with it, or pace around with it. But I basically just take it line for line. So, I learn one line and then I'll like put the script down, I'll repeat it maybe 10 times. And then I'll do the same with the next line and I basically just add it on. So if I'm learning a monologue, I basically just learn it line for line and I just take a bit of time to do everything I've done up until whatever line I'm on, make sure that that's locked in, and then I just add the next line on.
Do you
And
do it also what other actors do and get their family and friends involved in reading lines to you?
no, actually, no. Maria, my wife, quite often, like even for An Ideal Husband, when she came to see the show, and Ricky, who took over as the chairman of the company, it was like, so are you going to be glad that you don't hear these lines being recited like all day long in the flat? And he was like, I haven't heard him go through them once. I don't know when he does it.
Wow,
But
that's impressive.
that,
Well, I hope you sleep at some point, sir, because it sounds like you
I,
don't.
I sleep very well. It's everything needs to be compartmentalized. It's yeah, I sleep very well.
Very good. Well, I mean, getting to the last 15 minutes of the first hour, but like of all the cities you could have picked, you picked an ideal one to stay in Vienna, one of the cultural cities of the world, which I
Yeah.
absolutely would love to go to one day. But one thing I want to ask is, you mentioned before that with certain roles they were looking for an English speaking actor. Is it
Mm.
easier to find roles like that when you're abroad, or is it harder?
There are much fewer opportunities. That definitely the opportunities are not the same. The bonus is that whenever productions are looking for a native English speaker, I'm I've been very lucky up until now that I've quite often booked the part.
Because I also imagine that they're also asking you for German roles or Austrian roles.
It has happened a few times, but it doesn't happen that often. It's like, I mean, it's a bonus sometimes if I can, when they find out I can also speak German, but most of the work I get booked for is in English.
Is it the assumption that people think, oh, he's not going to learn German where you've lived in the area for 15 years?
Maybe, but I think it's also just the fact that there are so many German-speaking actors out there. So if they're looking for someone who is a native German speaker, they've got enough actors to choose from. There was one film that I was up for. It was I discovered when I found out I didn't get the part that it was between me and one other guy. And my agent at the time said, it's like, yeah, I'm really sorry it took so long, but they couldn't decide between you and this other guy. And in my head, I'm going, firstly, don't tell me that. Just tell me that I don't have the part. Because if you say they took like weeks to work out between me and this one other guy, I'm like going into my, mind room and I'm like, okay, which one of them was it that kept on suggesting that one or that one? What was the final straw that broke the camel's back? You
Which
know,
one do I need to bribe more?
right? Yeah, yeah. It's like okay, if it was that close, what do I need to learn from this experience? But that part was for a British guy who moved to Malta. Been living in Germany, a German-speaking country for too long, Malta. So he's living. He's
Good. You're allowed.
um, and he sets up a German language company there for courses to teach people German. And I read the script and I'm like, this is me. I'm a British guy who moved to a different country, and I know German. So I really kind of felt like hubris took over, and I really kind of had decided that I got the part, like just on reading the script, because it just felt like this was mine. Clearly, it wasn't.
That it was you.
Yeah, but they actually ended up casting the part with a German actor, and I never have any problems if somebody gets a part that I was up for. That's the nature of the industry. It's you'll do 100 auditions and you'll be lucky if you get 5 jobs. But this is like one of the only times where I've been like, okay, you cast someone who is a German actor, and when he speaks English, he speaks with a German accent, and when he speaks German, he doesn't even put on a British accent very much. So in neither language did he sound 100% genuine. So that was the one where it still kind of resonates with me a little bit as well. But you got to let these things go.
But it's interesting, like you said, because I mean, like you said, acting is it's a business based on rejection. It's the idea, like you said,
Hmm.
you'll get 100 roles and you'll be lucky to get one. But
Yeah, yeah.
in your time, is it more comforting to know to just say you haven't got the part and that's it, or had there been times where they've tried to offer feedback and you've taken it or not?
I think this is also something very individual. I know a lot of colleagues who want to know why they didn't get the part, but I do also very firmly believe that everything happens for a reason and everything happens exactly the way it's supposed to. so I've never really been one who has sought out reasons for why it didn't work. Like if I've been underprepared in the past or nervous or whatever, then I know already myself. Okay,
Mm.
yeah, I didn't have the time to do this, or I was underprepared. But honestly, 9 times out of 10, it's just because they had a different idea in their head of how that part should be filled. And I know that they had the reasons for this other part as well. You know, the actor that they had for it has his CV's way longer than mine in television. It's that
Mm.
he and these are things that producers think about. And that decision wasn't so much me as an actor, it was more me as a director and a producer thinking how do you
Yeah.
how do
Why?
you have a British guy and yeah, but it happens all the time, right? It happens in like American sitcoms and things where all of a sudden
Oh,
there'll be a German character on the film, and even I can hear it's like there's no way this guy's German. But I guess for the audience they're going for, they, it's not that big of a consideration, I guess.
but is that something where, because you've been on both sides of this agreement, you've been an actor audition, but also you've been a director. You have been a director, I assume, looking at auditions. Have
Mm.
you seen like, okay,
Yeah,
this
of
is the
course.
person I'm doing. I know what I'm looking for. Do you now see? Have you seen yourself in the people auditioning for you, or like you think, oh, okay, I know what you're looking for, but I can't. That's not what I like.
Um, yeah, I guess so. I mean, I think you have a lot of the decisions that I've made in my life have been just a gut feeling. So that I think you feel very quickly whether something works or it doesn't. And when you meet someone that you can just chat away to them, and it's comfortable, it's easy, and it's like, okay, I vibe with this person a little bit in the same way that if you meet someone and you're both just kind of standing there not quite knowing what to say, or yeah, like this, yeah, fidgeting, go for another sip of the drink, look around, help. So, we all understand these things. So I think most people have a very good built-in system within themselves of, can I click with this person, or are we going to jar with each other?
I suppose
Um,
that's an important thing as an actor director. No matter what is the synergy, you do have to get along with a cast that you have to be with
yeah,
for months on end. And I mean,
yeah,
has there
yeah.
been a time where that hasn't worked?
Um, hmm. Yeah,
You
I'm,
don't have
I'm,
to
I'm
name
sure.
names. I'm not asking
Yeah.
you to.
No, no, yeah, yeah, no, no, I won't. I definitely wouldn't. Um, but yeah, of course, and especially in big companies, like if it's a big cast, um, and if tensions are running high, if people are stressed out, if things aren't going the way that the director or the producer had hoped, that kind of filters down. Um, and if people at the top are very uneasy and stressed out, people at the bottom, they start to stress out as well. And this is then when factions start to happen, and people will go off into corners and try and work things out for themselves. I've been in a
Mm.
couple of productions where things like that have happened. It's also kind of one of the reasons when I have been directing big cast shows, I try and observe issues and try and resolve them before it turns into something. So I'm very much the kind of guy who if I notice that something is a bit off with an actor, then I will just go off and speak with them privately and just ask, is something wrong? Is everything okay?
I can see
Because
that with you. You do look like the mediator, the person who wants to solve the problems.
yeah, and not even so much solve the problems, but just I guess make people aware that they're seen. Because I think a lot of the times, especially in productions, when people start to not have fun, it's because they feel invisible, or they're not being taken seriously, or they don't feel that respect that they wish to feel. And I think it's a very easy thing to just ask someone how it's going.
Yeah.
and it just, it's a way of bringing them back in.
Well, I imagine that's a thing that you had to learn, not just in acting, directing, but also, like you said, teaching. You do teach as well. That
Yeah,
in this business, humility is your good friend, since you do have to learn to sort of
yeah,
know
yeah,
where you are on the pillar and know that this is a role. Have
yeah.
Have you encountered anybody who has in your youth been like, oh, I'm that arrogant person, I'm the one, and you've given them that advice of like, this is what you need to do?
Um, no, I don't think I've ever been that direct in that regard. I think I definitely will find roundabout ways of saying it.
Mm,
Um, Mostly because I think the people that I have come across who, for lack of a better word, promote a very arrogant version of themselves, it usually happens in the group, and these people quite often depart very quickly after like a class or something. I find that I find that, and again, this is a very broad stroke generalization because obviously it's always down to the individual, but I find a lot of the time that like arrogance and like, having a large ego are usually um, coping mechanisms for a side of a person that they don't wish to show the world, or they're not quite ready to show the world. But the thing is, if they're coming to an acting class or they wish to pursue a career in acting, there must be somewhere inside them that registers that fact and is trying to find a way of coming to terms with it. And I also find that one of the fastest and surest way of closing a person down from you is to try and tell them who they are and how they need to be. And if someone has a coping mechanism, which is arrogance and a big ego, then pulling them up on that fact, I think, is probably just going to build the wall higher rather
mm.
than break it down. So I
So,
think, yeah.
no, sorry, go ahead. I was interrupted. Sorry.
No, no, no. You go for it.
No, I was just
I
gonna, I was just
ramble
gonna ask
anyway.
like, no, I was just gonna ask like, if you did have like any words of advice to that young you that just left drama school, thinking that I could do anything with what you have learned now, what would you say to yourself then?
Just learn to give up control a little bit. Don't try and control it all, because ultimately
That's
we don't.
yeah, big bold words for the actor to give up control.
Yeah, but I think this is a lot of what it's about. We are one of the things that I love about Mike Bartlett's play is the character of John doesn't try and control anything. He can't even make a decision for himself. And if you, as the actor going into a part like that, are trying to make these decisions, if you're trying to hide aspects of yourself, or you're trying to pre-plan what you want to show and when, I, I believe anyway, it's only going to hinder you. It would hinder me.
Mm,
That trusting in the process, trusting in the text, trusting in your fellow actors around you.
mm.
Because this is the other thing as well. You only ever look as good as your partners on stage. And if you want to look
Yes.
better, then make them look better. Give
Yeah.
give them everything that helps them fulfill every aspect of their character. And without even trying to do anything for yourself, you'll receive from them as well. And then it's just your job as an actor to, take whatever they give you and, react to it, like bounce off of it. And I think when
Yes.
we try
Yes.
to, yeah,
No, it's just said it just reminds like one of those fun lines one of my friends has said like the most boring play to watch is the actor reacting to himself. Like he needs other
yeah,
people. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And it happens all the time. Like people will say, I'm going to do this in this scene. So it would be really great if you would do this. And I've
Ah.
seen it happen so often. But the problem is that the actor who's been told to do something, that's all they're thinking about the entire scene. It's like, oh, they asked me to do this on this line, so I need to remember to do that. So then they're not in the present moment throughout the whole scene. And
Mm,
even when that moment comes, they still linger on that moment once they've gone past it, because now you're thinking, was that right? Is that what they wanted? Was it, that was that okay? It's no, you lose control.
That immense pressure there, but one
Yeah.
it seems that you have managed to just overcome and enjoy in life.
Still in the process, but enjoying as I go.
As we all are. All right, we're going to go to a 5 minute ad break right now. And for anyone who's listening, we will get to what you want to talk about, which is the Amelia Project. But it's been a fun time just talking to you about acting and theatre work and directing. But we will get into the popular bit that everyone wants to get. But we're going to go to an ad break now for about 5 minutes or so. So do stay tuned in for a bit, and I hope we haven't worn you out.
No, not at all.
That's fantastic. All right, so we'll go to an ad break, and we'll see you guys in approximately 5 minutes. Take care. Hey guys, welcome back to LOL starring Chris Smith, the best comedy show on Let It Be Radio. I am still joined by the lovely actor, director, producer, star of the Amelia Project, Mr. Alan Burgon. Nice to have you back.
Yes, thank you.
Now, let's get into what everyone wants to know, which is the bit that we avoided. How did you get the part of Van Helsing and Dracula?
um, you know what? Getting the part of Van Helsing and Dracula, I think, was the universe listening in to me one night when I said to my wife Maria, you know what? I'd actually, because this was after St. Kilda had come along, and I remember being told, because I try and social media as much as I can, but it's difficult to keep on top with everything. But I do remember, I think on Tumblr or something, there were people who couldn't quite believe that the voice actor in St. Kilda was the same voice actor that plays the interviewer. So I was like, okay,
I mean,
yeah,
you do put on different accents, which is
yeah,
a
yeah,
bit.
absolutely, yeah, yeah. So, and I just remember thinking it's that I would kind of like to. I'd love to do another podcast, and I'd love to find a podcast where I get to play something that is completely different from both of those characters, like something which is completely different again. And about a week later, I think it was, Ella Watts reached out about regarding Dracula, and yeah, for the part of Van Helsing, and I was just like, well, this would be it, wouldn't it? Because this is again a completely different character, completely different voice.
No, because I've listened to it and I love it. Because for anyone who doesn't know, Van Helsing is Dutch. Yeah, he is
Yeah,
he has a Dutch accent, which you do pull off spectacularly. I mean, you are a man of many accents, as it has been
yeah,
proven.
yeah. Thank you. I mean, I had a lot of really great input from PJ Auckland. He's a um, dialect coach based in the States. And the production got him on board to just work with me on the accent because yes, the character is Dutch, but the really funny thing is that whenever he speaks in a foreign language, he speaks German. Like in the book,
Yeah.
whenever he speaks a foreign language, it's German that he speaks and not Dutch, which
Mm,
leads me to believe that Bram Stoker didn't actually know any Dutch and assumed that his book wouldn't make it outside of Ireland, and people there didn't know the difference between Dutch and German either. That's
yeah.
that's my theory.
No, it's a good
Um,
theory. It just looked at him and went, "I'll just mishmash it. Well, it's all the same language."
yeah, yeah. So what we kind of worked on was this combination between Dutch and German.
Mm,
So this is where like things like Gott, to like really hit the hard T and to
mm.
just select a few consonants or a few words where it was more German than Dutch. So this was a really interesting challenge.
Well, I mean, I mean, we'll get into this, but yeah, you've done a lot of things of acting wise, but then moving into the world of voice work, particularly podcasts, into
Mhm.
an area which even now it's a bit harsh, but fiction podcasts, which back then in the late 2000s weren't really much of a thing, and even now they're still
No.
kind of offhand of like, oh, this is just another niche thing. But to
Yeah, yeah.
fully go into that, how did you get introduced into fiction podcasts?
This was when I was running the theatre company with one of the members who I was running it with was Julia Seathorne, who plays Alvina in the Amelia Project. And So Philip and Oystein, they trained together at Rose Buford
Hmm.
as directors, but then moved respectively to Paris and Oslo. And they had been searching for a project that they could do together whilst being in two different geographical locations. And so they decided upon audio fiction,
Hmm.
and they asked Julia if Open House Theatre would be interested in co-producing it so that they could come to Vienna and use our pool of actors there to do basically try and do the first season. So Julia brought this up at a company meeting, and I was like, "Sounds great. Let's, fire the 3 episodes along that they had at the time, and I'll have a read through of them." And I'm not a very vocal reader, but I was laughing out loud like by page 3 or 4, I think. And so I read the 3 episodes, and I just thought it sounded like so much fun. So
Hmm.
I got back to Pip and Oystein, and I was just like, you know what? We'll definitely help you produce this because it's brilliant. And I know that you don't have an actor for the interviewer yet, so here are a few samples. And I just recorded like a few different versions of the character for them, including
Hmm.
like a Scottish one and also like a mad German professor type one.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
What I mean,
that's
was there a character that you just sort of you read it and you were like, I've just got to play him.
yeah. It just even if I wasn't going to play him, I was just like it was such a fun character, and yeah, just the I mean, Philip and Oystein are just such great writers, and it's a joy to perform their words. So
Hmm.
like as soon as I read those episodes, I was like, yes, there's something really wonderful here, and I want to be involved in it somehow.
So you get into it. You help produce and star now in the Amelia Project. First season, it is very much the simple format of in the room interviewing people. You know,
Yeah.
you're just starting out the character. You're fleshing him out more or less as of what he sounds like, what he does. Was there a bit of work with Philip and Oyster in terms of like what he should sound like, or did it just leave you to it?
Yeah. No. There was a lot of discussion because originally they had at least the way I remember it, maybe they remember it differently. Memory plays funny tricks on us, and we don't always remember things the same way. But in my memory, they had wanted to go for a slightly darker interviewer. So like like sitting in the voice, a bit
Oh,
lower and a bit more dangerous,
hmm.
which is a little bit more like how the interviewer is. That I've gone back and re-listened to the first season, just a couple of episodes, and when I do it, it's kind of like when I went and rewatched season 1 of The Simpsons when I'd got to season 24, and you hear that difference, but you hear the evolution of the character over time,
Yeah.
and and I was like, wow, I would actually love to go back and re-record the first episodes now that I've actually found the voice,
Hmm.
because it takes a while for these things to kind of find each other, because
Hmm.
it wasn't just me finding the character, it was also, I believe, with as the character was being built, as is usually the way, I think Pip and Oystein probably started writing with a little bit more my voice in their heads,
Yeah.
and then at some point it just kind of converges together, and it happens. Um, but yeah, there was a lot of discussion at the beginning, and there was a lot more playing around with how the character sounds. Now you just give me an Amelia script and I can cold read it, and it's basically, I have a good handle now on how the interviewer would behave in any
Hmm.
given situation.
No, because one thing I do love, and if anyone hasn't listened to it, they should, which is what like the because you even put you the 5 year anniversary, and you did one of the episodes where,
Yes,
in a
yeah,
roundabout way, you were the only person in it, sort of, because you
yeah,
were
yeah, right,
interviewed by the interview, but you could sort of
yeah.
tell like just your normal voice is lovely, but then what you put on for the interviewer even now, it's sort of
Mm,
this dialect of like, okay, because like he's serious, but he's also a bit of a goof, and like
yeah,
it's interesting how much protection you had of a character that you've had this long. Like, okay, I'm making sure that he has to sound different, but it's still
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, it's been a fascinating journey because I've never had the chance to be so long with one character.
Mm.
And it's one of those things that the longer you're in a relationship with someone, the more you start to understand them and accept every facet of them. And getting to that stage where the interviewer can be a goof because he just likes to have fun. He likes to be entertained and just goof around. But he's also lived through so many things that he can be very serious, and he can he can go to those deeper places of the human psyche as well, and he understands it when he's met with it. This is one of the other wonderful things, depending on the episode or the actors that we have coming in. The interviewer changes so much, and I realize how much the character adapts himself to certain people coming in. If this character is more of a goof that's coming in, then great, let's be goofs together. Or if this character is going through a really harrowing time, like in the episode Raven, that was the first time that I really, and it was effortless because the way Carly Fish portrayed Raven and the way that the way the writing pulled it all together, there wasn't any room for being a goof. And that wasn't even a choice as an actor. It was just like, yeah, this is how the interviewer is like when met with a person like this.
No, I love it because I remember when talking to Philip and I was saying that they said that's one of their favorite episodes, which is the Raven, because it was just a tonal shift of like season one was pure comedy. It was a
Yeah.
full and bred comedy, and then season two onwards, you do have to get into more serious moments. You do sort of have to be like, no, this character is serious, but like you said, he's also goofy. But just touching on it, because this is one of your longest played characters. This is a character that's a lot of people know and love you for. When playing other roles, does the interviewer slip out?
He definitely made an appearance in An Ideal Husband.
Did it?
It was peculiar because I was I was speaking to Maria as well, like, because we're both actors and we live together and we share our lives together. So most of our conversations gear towards acting at some point. And when I was preparing for the part, I remember saying to us, I'm desperately trying to get this character to not be some version of the interviewer, but it's difficult because it's also that kind of upper class English character, and I've done the interviewer now for so many years that I have explored basically my entire range, I feel, as an actor within the character of the interviewer. So what I realized was by trying to make God, and I can't even remember the name of the character now in An Ideal Husband. But when I was like practicing for that,
So Robert Chilton.
that's it, Robert Chilton, genau. And when I was preparing for that part, by going out of my way to not do it like the interviewer, the character just started to become very flat because I was limiting the range within the character so that it wouldn't be like the interviewer. So after a while, I just had to say, you know what, I just need to forget about it and I just need to go for whatever comes out. So that character was that character was basically the way I kind of got myself around it, like got my own psyche around it, was that could have been a character that the interviewer had portrayed at some point in the past.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing to dive into is the Amelia Project, because I talked to this with the creators before, in the sense that what started as one concept has divulged into such an elaborate and extremely confusing, but also hilarious plot that, I mean, do you get scripts now and you read through them and you just think, what the hell? Where are you taking me now? Like, why am I here? It's just like, has there just been like absolute
Yeah.
confusion in your part, being like, okay, guess I'm here now, you know?
I think that probably happened at the end, like maybe at the start of season five, or like within season four, where I was like, wow, where are we going now? But it's because I've gotten so used to it now that it's just okay, where are we going now?
You just fully embrace it.
Yeah, yeah,
No, but one thing that they have made you do, and I touched on this on your benefit, they have made you do a lot of different accents in the past, and also say
yeah,
different languages and things. I think there's one where like you had to say talking Iranian, talking ancient Welsh,
yeah,
talking. You know,
yeah,
you've done German, French, you've done almost every
yeah,
accent and language they could do.
yeah.
When you get
There was
thrown line,
yeah.
when you get thrown like that, is it a challenge or is it just a breeze?
No, it's definitely always a challenge. So I had to hold a telephone conversation in Farsi during a live performance
Yes,
at
it's one of my
the
favorite
Pod
episodes.
UK. That was in 2019, I believe. I don't have a clue what I said. I know what the translation was, but I don't know what I said. I just had they found someone who spoke Farsi to record it for me, and I basically just listened to that recording and slowed down the recording and kind of wrote it out phonetically for myself, and I just
Oh
learnt it
wow!
phonetically.
I
So
mean,
it's you know
how tough was that?
it wasn't easy. Um, but it was kind of like learning a song, I guess, because Farsi is very melodic, you
Mm,
know. So it was just, and I was just like, okay, on the recording, this guy is going like up to this note here with this
mm,
sound, and that's basically how I learnt it.
yeah.
Um, yeah,
Well, imagine that one's also tougher because that's a live episode. You're not just record in the studio
yeah,
record. You actually
yeah,
had
yeah,
to perform it live. Was there been more added
yeah.
pressure to that?
Yeah, definitely added pressure, but I think it probably also helps that the fact that most other people didn't understand what I was saying either. Um, because in season four, um, I had to read the last paragraph or two paragraphs of War and Peace by Tolstoy in Russian.
Oh, I'm trying to
Um,
remember what episode that is. But it's just like because I know you've done it, but like you've done so much
yeah,
now. Should I
it's
try to?
yeah, I can't remember the exact episode. I think it's towards the end of season four.
Probably, yeah.
It's almost when the interview is out of Golovin,
Mm,
and we recorded that in London. Again, somebody recorded it for me, and I just like learned it phonetically. I'd been to Ukraine quite often filming, so I had been surrounded by Ukrainian and Russian speakers for quite a while.
mm,
So that one was easier to kind of slip into because it was more familiar, like phonetically, than Farsi was.
mm,
But again, you just kind of learn it, you know,
mm.
as you're learning a song, kind of thing. So I
Well,
think
because
we
I also remember asking them Philip and I said when the King Arthur episode came out,
yeah,
and you basically had to learn Old English.
yeah,
But they
yeah,
had to learn it as well. They had to learn to type it out, and then you had to learn to say
yeah,
it. So
yeah,
there was a challenge on both sides of being like, we
yeah,
have
yeah.
no idea what we're saying, but we're just going on with it.
Yeah, and we had Matti Patsevar who does production on the Amelia Project. They study English language, or they did. I think they've graduated by now. Um, but it was one of their professors who came on. Like we had a Zoom call with their professor to help us go through it. It's like, you know, does that sound right? And it's like, yeah, maybe just stress this rather than that, or you know, elongate that e there. So you know, he was a great help. But
I mean,
yeah, there's
was it a bit funny of a professor just telling you how to say? You know, you're just thinking like, this is like a 1,000-year-old language. No one knows what I'm gonna say, but it's just like,
well, to be honest, Matty's professor, and I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the professor. It was only that one call that we were on with them. Um, but I remember him saying that he was extremely nervous about doing this because, you know, of course, that's what he has spent his life doing and teaching to people. But to come into this type of an environment where he knows that it's going to go out onto,
To the
podcatchers all
public
over the world.
listening.
Yeah, yeah. That was a bit daunting, I think, for him.
Damn. I mean, have you had that in the past? Have you had? I mean, because obviously you have a lot of fans, which this is a big show. Have you had fans congratulate or critique your accents of saying, "Well done, but you could have said
Hmm.
this"?
That's a good question. It may well have happened. I don't remember any occasions where it happened. Um, but I also try not to take these things personally if they if someone does critique.
Of course.
It's always an individual thing anyway. So I'm sure it must have happened, but
Yeah,
I
well, I
can't
mean,
I can't
you
think
do
of
them
any.
so brilliantly. It's hard to critique that.
Thank you. They're fun to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, more often than not, it's like a friend here when we did the Wicked Bible, and it was
Yes.
and it was the Welsh version of the voice. And I just remember Jess saying to me because Jess used to do tech for Open House Theatre, and I was doing a production with them, and she just came up to me one night and she's like, "I've got a bone to pick with you." I was like, "What?" It's like Welsh. And I was like, "Oh, you listened? You heard?" She's like, "Yeah, I did, but you did a good job, so it's okay."
Just look at Welsh. Huh? Oh, you listened? Yeah, listen.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
no.
yeah, yeah,
But I mean, because of where season 5 has gone to so many weird places. Do
yeah.
you do you have a say in what the interviewer says now, or do you just leave it all up to Philip and Oyster to be like, no, this is what he would feel like, just because you have played the character for so long?
Yeah. No, we quite often go for, well, so we always do a few takes of each section when we're recording. The first take about a year ago, I dubbed the wakey wakey take because nobody's ever fully invested in the first take. That's kind of like the warm up one. So
Oh,
it's like
okay.
that's the wakey wakey take.
Yeah, just giving up. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so then we do at least one clean take, which is, the words as are. And then we do a wild take, which is, improvising, just like basically doing whatever we want. So we always kind of try and get those three in the bag. Um, but Philip and Oystein are very open to a bit of improvisation, so long as we don't change the meaning behind something, it's quite often the improvisations make their way into the episodes because it's there's a truthfulness there with if someone says something that catches you off guard and you react, these moments are gold. But
What's the last bit of improv you did on one of the episodes where you were like, I'm surprised that got in there?
I honestly don't know. It happens every once in a while, but the problem is that it happens so often now that I'm not sure when I listen back whether that was something improvised or something not. And the other thing as well is sometimes we record these episodes like a year or more before they come out.
Yeah.
So like Queen Basilia, for example, when we were listening when I was joining the listening party for that, I could not remember what the episode was about until about 10 minutes into it. And then I was like, oh, now I remember this episode. This is a good one. Yeah,
Oh
great.
damn! Really? Oh, I mean, because yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
the problem that all of you have had, because I asked Philip and Austin about this before, is it says because they both live in different countries and you live in different countries, the
Yeah, yeah.
scheduling must be nigh impossible to get all of you just in a meeting.
Yeah, yeah. It's really not easy. We do doodles so that we find times where we can all get together. And if we're working with the voice actors in the States, like if Julia Morizawa was involved in an episode or something, it's even trickier to find a time that works. It means that she usually has to get up early in the morning so that she can get on the call. Um, but it is tricky because we're all very busy people, and getting times where it works for all of us usually means that we're either doing it like up until 11 o'clock at night during the week, or we're doing it at the weekends.
I mean, does that add a bit of pressure then, just to be like how long you can push the recordings for, in the sense of like you might get to a stage where one of you is just like, it's midnight, let me go to sleep, kind of feeling just that.
Um, yeah, I honestly think it's probably been about once that someone has said, "Look, I'm really sorry, guys, but I'm really tired." Usually, it's a case that we have everything in the can, and Pip or Oystein will say, "You know what? We've basically got everything, and we're approaching the 3 hour mark. So unless there's something that anyone else desperately wants to get, I think we have it. It's
Uh, I know you said before you don't like to you don't like to challenge the directors and things or the writers because it's the part is your part. But has there been an episode of the Amelia Project where you've not challenged, but it's just questioned why?
um, there was the only time I ever remember it happening was also in season 4, where we were in Golovin prison and the interviewers trying to get information about the whereabouts of Amelia and Alvina.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah.
and so the direction that I got was to just, be a bit, a bit more into, a bit more like the interviewer normally is, that, light-hearted kind of stuff.
Mm,
And I was just like, look, I hear what you're saying, but I really think that this is one of those moments in the long history of the character where the glass just breaks
mm,
because he is completely on his own. Throughout the whole season, he's kept it light. He's tried to, view everything with, rose tinted glasses. Make the best of a bad situation. But at that one moment where he is expecting to find out information and it doesn't come, it's like I just said, is that I really feel like at least once we should see a bit of rage in this guy. That
mm.
side's also there. And
Yeah,
and we did it, and like straight away the guys were like, you know what, yeah, thank you, we see exactly what you mean, and yeah, that's absolutely right. And it was just one of those little moments, but honestly, it doesn't happen very often because we work so well together. There's a lot of respect in the Amelia Project, and a lot of very talented people coming together, and we all want to produce our best work. So I honestly don't think there's ever been an argument or anything, like even a disagreement of opinions.
really.
Maybe it's happened somewhere else, but I've never witnessed it, and I've never been involved with it.
Mm. That's impressive though, but it just shows how well you all work together, and especially when you've had guest stars on as well. That just
Hmm.
on that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But like, is it interesting now looking back that where it started, the Amelia Project, where it was just a very simple comedy, on
Hmm.
its back, and where it is now, since it has become more dramatic, it's become more
Yeah.
seriousness. Is it one of those things where just like you weren't expecting the role to be this encompassing, or were you just thinking like, you know what, I'm just going with the flow. I'm just I did this and now I'm here
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we all reached that stage at some point of what, we're here now, so let's just see how far it goes. But none of us, I honestly don't think a single one of us expected it to become what it became,
Yeah,
because it
because I mean,
really,
sorry, go
yeah.
ahead. Sorry.
No, no, I was just going to say, because it really was, a Herzprojekt, a project of the heart. These guys just desperately wanted to work together, and I just loved the material, and it was okay. Yeah, let's do this. This is great. Let's have some fun. And I think for all of us at the beginning, it was just about having fun. And as soon as it kind of, like, for me, the day that I found out that we'd had over 1 million downloads, I was like, wow, if we just broken 1 million downloads, where's it gonna go?
But is
And
that really daunting? Because obviously you worked a lot. You've had a lot of people who love your work and other things. So it's
yeah.
fantastic. But is it so strange now that people recognize you just from your voice, where they hear you talk? It's like that's the interviewer. Yeah.
Um, I mean, the thing is, because it's an online community, for the most part, it doesn't happen very often. I have one student at one of the drama schools that I work at. who came in wearing an Amelia t-shirt. And I'm surprised every once in a while to hear people talk about the episode that just dropped. It's, oh, I had no idea that you listened.
Mm.
It's I'm sure it would happen at some point, but also because the voice that I do for the interviewer is not it's not
No,
this
it's
voice.
not your natural voice.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's not really something that people are going to necessarily hear in passing unless they tune into interviews like this and stuff.
Mm.
But I do remember Hemi told us that he was at the airport. I think it was at the airport, and there was a girl in front of him with an Amelia badge pinned to her bag. And he was like, I so wanted to say something. And I was like, you should have just put on the Kozlovsky voice and just, said something. It's like,
Just freaks her out. Just be like,
yeah, 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 yeah. It's like, are you ready for your new life or
oh my god.
whatever? They would have,
There's that,
she would have loved it.
there's that thing. You always have a lot of fans. So, because I asked the others about this, do you get sent? Do you just get sent like hot chocolate and you know Maltesers now?
I don't, but my address isn't on the website, so
So you're lucky there.
yeah, yeah. I know that Pippa Neustein have been sent things in the past, but no, I personally have not been. Oh no, someone was going to send me some crochet that they did, but I'm not sure. Either it never reached me, or I don't know. There was a very brief discussion over Instagram at one point. They were like, "Yeah, okay, I'll send you some crochet." I was like, "Okay, sounds great,"
No,
but
I love that
I
because
don't, I don't, I don't think it ever reached me.
no, I love because the community of this show, me being one of them, is fantastic and blood because there's also a lot of fan art out there
Oh
of
yeah,
the
yeah.
interviewer. Was it is it surprising to draw the way they see the interviewer? And do you actually have an image of the interviewer in your head?
I do now from all of the fan art, yeah. But no, that was surreal. I mean, I'm kind of I've gotten more used to it now, but I still find it a very surreal thing to see fan art come out of the character. Also because it very quickly became apparent that they were using pictures of me from social media and things as the
Yeah, because I was gonna
basis.
say they're basing it on you,
Yeah,
and
right. Which doesn't happen all the time, but it's like whenever something comes out that looks very similar to me, I'm just like, this is wild.
mm,
Um, but it's but it's so funny because you know the, I do feel a lot of the time that the fans know more about the show than I do. It's like there's quite often, people will be full of facts about the shows, and I'm just like, what episode is that from? Where was that? Because we've done almost 100 episodes now, and more if
oh,
you include
so
all of the bonus episodes. Um, I think it was maybe about a year or so ago. I was really embarrassed because I was like, I should know this. But I went to Philip and Oystein and I was like, look, did I miss something in one of the earlier episodes? Like, is there a reason why on the fan art the interviewer has two different colored eyes? And they were like, no, no, it's just it just like someone at some point drew him that way, and now it's like so many drawings there. It's like, phew, okay, because I thought that this is some piece of information that I should be aware of. It's like this one's blue, this one's brown. But
yeah, yes,
yeah,
yes, monochromatic eyes, yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I mean, because also with a lot of fandoms is that you're also in a three-piece suit, you're with a bow tie, and that you are pretty much a proper English gentleman of that sort of
yeah.
caliber who, for some reason, also enjoys cocoa and Maltesers.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, has it then differed the way then? Because you've also performed him live. You did it
Yeah.
at the audio shows with Tom Crowley, which was that Iranian episode. But you've also
Yes.
done the theatre ship as well.
Yeah.
Was that more daunting to perform him live?
Yeah. At the theater ship, it was a bit easier. The first couple of times, it's a bit strange because in like what I love about audio is that it doesn't matter what you look like.
Yeah.
And I mean, one of the things that tickled me the most when we were getting ready to launch the Amelia Project was that we'd met in May of 2017 and we recorded everything in Vienna. And then the guys went off, and Frederick S. Baden was doing all of the sound design at that point. And so he had been listening to our words on repeat for months. And we get to Oslo, we're there at the theater where we're having the launch party, and Øystein's like, "Oh, and by the way, Freddie, this is Alan." And he's like, "Oh, hey, nice to meet you." He's like, "Wait, Alan?" And it's like, "Yeah." It's like, "Oh my God, I thought that you'd be in like your 40s and, like be like completely different." And I was just like, "Yeah, great." Because it's the audio, it doesn't matter what you look like, it's only the voice. So for me, when we do Amelia live, it's different now because I think most of the listeners, if not all of the regular listeners, I'm sure know what we all look like.
Yeah.
But especially at the beginning when people didn't necessarily know what we look like. And if I'm completely clean shaven, I look quite young. And I know that that's what a lot of the people weren't expecting to see on stage when we first got up there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that was very much in the back of my head. You kind of need to just let go of it, and
I mean,
just do justice to the part. But
I watched clips of it just cause, as much as I could, but was it also a bit daunting or annoying just to be like, oh, I've got to dress up for this now. I've got to actually look good for this audio thing I'm doing now.
I mean that was more normal for me, really, because coming from theater.
Yeah.
Um, in the theater ship, it was just the fact that it was so unbelievably hot and stuffy in there.
Oh, really?
It was, yeah, it was the end of the summer, or it was still summer, but it was hot anyway, and there's no real air conditioning, and we were in full costume, and I'd brought the tweed trousers and boots and things,
Oh
and
my
we
god,
had
you
two,
wore tweed in August.
yeah, right. It's because that was the only kind of interviewery thing I had. So I was like, okay, I'll bring that. But we were sweating buckets. It was crazy. We had one show, I think it was 2 or 2:30.
Now I'm kind of glad I didn't go because I would have
Yeah.
thought the smell would have been like, oh.
No, so there was a fan at the door where the audience was blowing from the door towards the stage. So I think they were fine.
Well, we
Uh,
should also point out that the most recent episode dropped. You're actually going to a listening party after this. I
yeah.
won't ask. We won't go into spoilers and anything because we've also just established a lot. But I mean, just like pure curiosity, how much? Because the most recent episode is about you, about the interview, main Moped
Yeah.
Arthur. How
Yes.
much of it do you actually remember recording?
Well, I listened to it last week, so but I don't remember where we recorded it. Um, oh no, no, yeah, no, that was here in Vienna. Yeah, we recorded that one here, I think, in Vienna. But to be honest, I was more just thinking about the accent because this is the origin story, and for those who have been listening, it's common knowledge now anyway because it's been shared around social media so much that the interviewer goes through different voices on the journey back in time.
Mm.
Um, Often with that kind of typical interviewer voice, because it was also that thing of to maintain that link to the actual character, and the device was written as such that the interviewer telling Alvina the stories in Montmartre Cemetery was that sometimes he would slip into the voice, sometimes he would
Yeah.
tell the stories in his own voice. So it's we covered all the bases there.
Well, I
But
love the fact that you also because it's important. It is basically how you and Kozlowski meet. You know.
yeah, and it was great. I loved the episode, and it was a lot of fun to do, and also because of the accent that I got to do in it, that was also close to
I
me.
mean, has it happened where a lot of it's you remember each session, or is it just kind of do a lot of them just blend together in terms of multiple sessions all at once?
A lot of it blends together. I remember moments that kind of stick with me. I have like kind of snapshots in my head, but
Mm.
it is also that thing of because I do so many other things in my life that it's there's not really space for everything that I do in my head to stay present with me all the time.
Well,
Um,
that's going to make these next few questions a bit difficult for you then, because what I normally do, and I've done this ever in the past, in the sense that I go through sort of the rapid fire questions. These aren't like go fast quicker, but it's like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
short, simple questions which I know everyone wants to know. They'll be like,
yeah,
okay, give me an answer or just one set of answers, and here you go.
yeah,
Some of them might be based on the media, some of them, but we'll do as general as possible. So
yeah.
let's just work this out. So does Amelia itself the easiest episode to work on?
The easiest episode to work on. Uh, well, I have no idea. That's a great question. Um, I mean, probably episodes where I'm not in them very much are the easiest because I just get to sit back and listen to everybody else.
Yeah,
Um,
season 3, you were just relaxed.
yeah, yeah. Um, the easiest? No, I don't know.
That's fair enough, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
Well then, the other way, do you have the hardest ones? Do you have what episodes that were just a pain in the butt to do?
Um, no, I don't think any of them ever been a pain in the butt to do because they're all so different and the writing is always so different and there's always a different version of the interviewer that I get to perform in each episode. You know, whether
There
it's
hasn't
just
that
the
there hasn't been a
mood
monologue
or
or a dialogue where you've had to repeat it constantly.
mm, I mean, the most challenging would definitely have been learning the Farsi and the Russian. You know,
Fair enough.
these were or maybe things like Tomogutsen where we had to, you know, where I had to be um possessed by a demon for a while. You know, it was a lot of fun, but you know, it was a lot of energy expenditure as well. So maybe something like that, like physically challenging.
Fair enough. Okay, then. Well, then let's say what has been in all the roles. What's the easiest role you've played
Um, in Amelia or just in
in
general?
general? We'll do general.
The easiest role I've played. Wow. You know, it's so interesting because these types of questions I never ask myself about the parts because
Well,
it's because
I'm glad I'm asking them now.
yeah, yeah. Oh no, maybe playing the part of Peter in Noel Coward's Relative Values. That I found a
Okay,
relatively easy part to play.
my side.
Um, because it was heightened, it's a comedy, and it wasn't very physical. It was just walking and talking, and you know, just like by putting on the suit, you're kind of putting on that character, and I played that kind of character so often. It's also potentially a kind of version of the interviewer, but it wasn't a very demanding part.
Okay, then on the flip side of it, what has been the hardest role you've had to play?
Um, the most challenging physically was the Beast in Beauty and the Beast at Dundee Rep.
Yeah.
I had because I had a very clear image in my head of how the Beast should look. So I went into rehearsals on like, one of the first days and said to the director that Jemima Levick, also fantastic director, I loved working with her. And I just said I'd quite like to do this part on my tiptoes so that my heel resembles the dew claw of a beast. And she was like, she just looked at me and she was like, if you can do that, then I'm all for it. And so I did. You know, it took a while to be able to do it for the whole show, like throughout rehearsals. But you know, the muscles in my legs built, but they built in such a position that and when, you know, I go to the gym and stuff as well quite regularly, but at that time I wasn't doing anything for the legs. I was just doing upper body at the gym. So I was like, okay, I'm playing this part, so the legs are kind of taking care of themselves. But when I went back to the gym to do squats after performing the part, I squatted down and tore the muscles in the fronts of my thighs.
Oh God.
Like, yeah, they just went. And
Reality set in then.
yeah, right. And so I went, I left the gym that day. I went home. I recovered for a couple of weeks.
Mm.
thought that I had recovered fully, went back in and did exactly the same thing again.
I mean,
So
just as a sideline to that, has that happened once or anything else where like you've written on your CV that you can do this, or a director has said, "Can you do this?" and you said yes, and immediately gone, "Oh, I really wish I did. I didn't say I could do that."
only when I was filming a teaser trailer for an hopefully upcoming film that's still going through financing. Um, where I did my CBT test when I was, 17 years old, but I never got my full motorbike license. And I was like, yeah, I've driven a motorbike before, I can do this. But it was like 18 years ago since I sat in a motorbike.
Was
And
this for obscure?
no, that was a horror film that I did at the start of this year. No, the teaser trailer is for Out of Limbo.
That's it. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, which has got a new working title, The Big Buzz.
Okay.
But that's a kind of James Dean character,
Oh,
and we had this Harley Davidson there, and it was a genuine, 1960s Harley Davidson. It meant a lot to the guy who owned it,
yeah.
and I had to have one of my co-stars on the back with me,
Mm,
and it was fine, but I was sweating a little bit because the transmission is something that I'd never experienced before. It was a foot pedal, so the clutch basically you have a pad here and a pad at the heel, and you
yeah.
need to push both of them forward at the same time with your foot and then tilt, and that's the same as the clutch on a modern
Okay.
motorbike. So yeah, it took a little bit of time to get used to it, but that was one of those moments where I was like, okay, I need to actually sort out my proper motorbike license so that if I get a part where they need me to drive a motorbike again, I can do more than 10 miles an hour.
I mean, do you like the fact that do you actually? I mean, have you got a motorbike license now?
No, I keep wanting to do it, but I mean this is the genuine thing. Um, my time, my schedule changes so quickly all the time. Like for
Oh,
example, I've been trying to learn sword fighting properly for a few years now, and
whoa.
I finally thought that I had the time to do it, and I went to do a taster session about 2 months ago, and it was like, okay, this is great. I'm gonna do it. I said to the guys that, okay, Friday morning's brilliant because I'm usually here on a Friday morning. And I was like, okay, send me the details. I'm going to sign up. That was, I think, 8 Fridays ago, and I have not been in Vienna available for any of them.
I mean,
So
why sword fighting? Is that for a role, or is that just a genuine thing you want
no,
to do?
also just to have on my CV. It's some like there are certain things that I would like to have on my CV because especially the way casting works nowadays, if they're casting for something and they go onto the platforms, my wife is also a casting director.
Hmm.
And they put in all of the filters that they're looking for, and if they're looking for someone who can drive a motorbike and wield a sword, and I don't have that down as on my skill set, then I don't show up on their page.
That's an interesting combo of talent. If you could mix them
Right.
up, that would be fantastic.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
moving on then. So, favorite line or monologue you've said in anything?
I'm Bob.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
I'll do. Okay. Uh, Back to Amelia because I've said this before to Philip and Austin. Favorite 3 episodes?
Favorite 3 episodes?
Yeah, because I tried giving them top one, but they couldn't do it, so I just gave them top three.
Yeah, yeah. Ooh, interesting. Um, Favorite 3 episodes. I mean, I loved having the chance to write my own episode. That was great.
Yes,
So
yes,
Griffith ap Llewellyn ap Yorwerth. That was a lot of fun.
yeah.
Um, also because I got to work with Reese Lawton on it as well, who's I love him as a voice actor. He's great. Um, and it was really nice to have him join us for that. And yeah, to hear your own words kind of come to life. That's always fun. I've kind of loved everything to do with season 5, to be honest. This whole journey that we've gone on. because there have
Yeah.
been so many different versions of the character that I've got to do. But I also loved the episode Amelia, where we kind of go to Plum Manor for the first time. Um, there was just something about that episode that, when we discovered what it was like, or when I discovered what it was like for the interviewer and Kozlowski to truly mourn for someone,
Mm,
that also gave me a deeper, like it allowed me to explore a different aspect to the character.
yeah.
So I think all of these moments where it's, a surprising turn for the character, these things I love.
Now, well, I'll give you my top three as well, just to
Yeah,
play ball unfair.
yeah,
Because a lot of these are season fives, because they, like you said, they keep jumping up and move around a lot. I mean, top
yeah,
three for me right now is the one where you did with the RAC, the Royal Shakespeare Company, just because of the
yeah,
dialogue in it that you have done, which is fantastic. I keep trying to
yeah,
quote
yeah,
you all the time in it.
yeah,
Um, Second one would be Aeschylus, just the one where you had the choir,
yeah,
which I was
yeah,
told, by the way, was tough to do because you had to redo that entire episode,
yeah, yeah,
which which was, but it's just funny. It's just funny to just hear the chorus go, "Behold!" It's just like,
yeah,
okay.
right,
And
yeah, yeah,
another one, Jack, because
yeah,
of the certain character in it that I am a long term fan of that you have also
yeah,
played. Yeah, but
yeah,
also
yeah, yeah,
just
yeah,
but just as a final, like, yeah, best thing out that I like there is season 4 Curtain, where it's just between
yeah.
the interview
Curtain
and
as well,
Alvina
yeah,
just chatting, and it is sort of that moment, just
yeah.
like the interviewing genuine emotion, which I absolutely love.
Yeah, that was also one of those moments for me where again the character hit slightly differently
Yes. Also, for
because
some
this,
reason, you mentioned that you don't like blue Smarties, just like
yeah,
just randomly in there.
yeah.
Um,
But you see, these are the facts that listeners know that I don't, because a lot of the time that for me is it's that if someone reminds me, it's that, oh yeah, but it's not something I remember about the character very much.
but again, it's just like oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
okay, I guess that's a thing I have to
yeah,
add to
yeah,
it now.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's great though.
okay, last two then. So, if you have one, a favorite podcast other than Amelia?
Midnight Burger.
Oh yes, fantastic. No,
Yeah,
because I interviewed Joe Fisher on this. He's a lovely man.
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Joe's great,
Yeah.
and it's
That's in
it's the, it's the
that's in the collab that you guys did with them was fantastic.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, and it's one of the because I got so hooked on that podcast, and it's one of the only ones because I genuinely I don't listen to an awful lot of podcasts because most of my time is learning stuff that I need to do for my own
Yeah,
work.
you've got
So
too
it
much
is,
to do.
yeah. So every once in a while, I will have like a week or two where I can binge something, so I maybe find something, but it hasn't happened for about a year. But
Yeah,
Midnight Burger, I binged, and I was just like, wow, I love this podcast so much, and I started to just like tweet a little bit about it. Sorry, X, but it will always be a tweet for me, uh,
yes, same thing. Yeah,
right? And then that was when Joe reached out one time, like over, I think it was still Twitter at that time. And he reached out and he's just like, hey, we've got this part coming up, would you be interested in playing it? So, the last Scotsman in the universe. And I was like,
yes, I love it.
hell yes, I would. It's like this is now surreal. It's like, because this is like, I'm a fan of this show, and now you're getting in touch with me to ask if I want to be on the show. It's like, yes, I do.
A dream role to play the last Scotsman in the
Yeah,
universe.
right. It's so
uh,
much fun. It's
I
great.
love it. And last quick one, favorite accent that you'd love to do?
We, um, I mean, doing RP or some version of it is the thing that I do most in my work, especially being over here. I did a voiceover for the ORF here, which is basically the Austria's equivalent to the BBC, and it
Mm,
was on Arthur Conan Doyle, who had a very, strong brogue, Scots brogue, which it never
yeah.
really left him. But I had to do that character in RP as well. Um, so I'm very used to doing that, and it's something that's easy for me to slip into. I do enjoy doing Dutch. I don't get an awful lot of opportunity to do it, but because it took so long to work out all of the kinks, that's what I enjoy doing.
Great. Well, with a fantastic time. We're coming up to the end of our 2 hours. I mean, Alan, it has been an absolute joy and a pleasure to have you on the show. It's fantastic. Just
It's been
let
great.
everyone know, where can they find you? What are you working on right now, quickly?
I will be making an appearance in the aforementioned podcast again soon. And yeah, there's more Amelia on the way. I do a small part in a film that's being shot here in Austria, but that'll probably go around festival circuits. I don't know, if you have something, reach out, get in touch, maybe we can work on it, and then I'll be in that.
Fantastic, man. Well, you've been a fantastic pleasure. Thank you so much for being on the show, and thanks to everyone out there listening. It's been a fantastic time. I wish I had some Berkeley code to celebrate, but I'll see you guys next time, same time, same place. Take care, guys. Bye.
Chris.